What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Back to the Basics series. This video is strictly going to be covering the salary cap and the salaries page and how you can better understand what the contracts you're giving these players are going to do and how it's going to affect your team as a whole if you decide to cut them, trade them, or if you decide to give them a big contract so that you can better manage your franchise and hopefully not make the mistake of, overpaying for a couple years and then you realize, holy crap, I'm negative 50 million and I have no clue what to do. This video is here to help you understand, and then you can use these tools in your own franchise to hopefully build yourself a great contender and hopefully to give you some more fun in franchise when it comes to handling this. There's a lot of people that I know that they get excited. They like, oh my God, I have 4 free agents that I can sign right now and make my team awesome. And then a year later or 2 years later, they realize, holy cow, I have no money. I can't sign anybody. I can't re-sign my quarterback. I'm barely even covering my rookie contracts. I have to cut everybody. And that's not fun for anybody, right? Nobody wants to do that. But with this knowledge, hopefully you can make better decisions up front to protect yourself in the future. And my favorite spot to do all this from, and the spot you guys should be all learning about if you do not use it already, is right here under Manage Roster, and it's called Team Salaries. And it's going to give you all the numbers you need to know to keep your cap in check in Madden franchise. So how we're going to work this is I have a whole bunch of stuff to share with you. I'm going to go down and break down the player contracts, how the percentages work out there, what'll happen if you cut them, and also go over this top part here so you know exactly what each number is and where it is coming from. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over this area right up here. This is a very important number to understand and also know where the numbers are coming from so that way you know exactly what to expect with your team. We're going to work this by sort of going in a separate order because these numbers sort of tell a story together and I don't want to get confused with another number. So we're going to start at the very top line and we're going to cover those first 3 boxes, the 2023 cap, rollover, and then adjusted cap, and then we'll cover the bottom 3 on the left, the 2023 salaries, the 2023 cap penalty, and the 2023 total spending, and then we'll cover the last 2. So the 2023 cap, that is how much money Madden or the NFL is allocating you to spend on your team this season. This number will increase from year to year to keep up with inflation, rising contract costs, and different things like that to make sure that even if contracts are getting more expensive and maybe, just inflation is rising, you will still have enough money to field a good enough team while still maintaining integrity with your decisions. So right now it is at 225. If you guys watch the NFL like I do, you probably know that there was a huge bump this year. So I think it was like 255 now. It was like 30 million increase. It was a big increase. But that is what essentially is going to happen to this franchise in Madden. It's not going to be as drastic as that. It's just a set amount each year, but it will get up to pretty big amounts to allow you to make decisions. And this will change from Madden to Madden depending on what the current landscape is with the NFL. So right now it is at 225 million. The next box over from that, the rollover from 22, that is your rollover cap from the previous season. And what that means is if you do not spend all of your money in the previous year, like say you have $10 million left over, you will then receive 10 million in rollover that will be added to your adjusted cap to make it then at that point 235. Now the Vikings are not a very good team apparently for what I'm using. We'll just use the Falcons to just show this number here quick because it adds it up perfectly. So you have the 225 with the salary cap from 2023. The rollover they had was 5 million. So now that means that their adjusted cap is 230 million. That is how much they can spend this season. So by not spending all of your money every year, you can actually give yourself extra money to apply towards a new player or maybe to re-sign a player that is demanding big money this season. So that is something very important to keep an eye on. And another part of that is be careful with how much you use of it every season, because you have that cap of 230 million, which is obviously 5 million higher than the $225 million cap the league provides. And if you spend all of that money, so 230 million, the next year you will not have any rollover. So it'll be $0 rollover from your previous year. And if for whatever reason, the current cap does not go above 230, now you're almost in a hole already. just because you overspent what you had, you used the extra money you had, but you didn't have a fallback plan, and the inflation rate of the salary cap as a whole did not keep up with how much you spent. So it is good sometimes to have that rollover for like one bigger contract. You know there's some players leaving. You can spend it knowing that you're going to be free from the books for a while after this, and it will not affect you. But if you consistently redline all of your contracts and all of your salary cap, you will eventually run into an issue where you're spending more than the league tells you can, and it's going to cause you to have to cut a player or two or three. You know, it can get crazy. So just keep that in mind. Don't always try to max out your cap. You want to save money. You don't want to spend it all every year. Sometimes you can if you know it's a Super Bowl year and you're going to off a bunch of players after you win. Go ahead and do it, because you will fix it yourself afterwards. But keep that in mind. For long-term success, you cannot redline your cap every year. Eventually, it will bite you. All right, now we are back to the Vikings, because that's my team. This is the one I'm using, whatever. We are now moving down to the bottom section of that, the 2023 salaries. Now, the salaries is how much you are currently spending on your roster. So right now it says the Vikings are spending $180 million of that salary cap on players. And I know the numbers might not look like they make sense right now, but they will in just a few short moments here. The next number to that is your 2023 cap penalty. So that is how much money you have incurred of dead money because of cutting players that have contracts still, trading players that have multiple years left. That is where that penalty comes from, cutting players with guaranteed money. We'll go over that in great detail later on in this video, so make sure you stick around for it. And then that number is going to add to what you see there on your 2023 total spending. So it's going to take your salaries, add your cap penalty, and that is where you get the total spending from underneath that for the $208 million. Now that we understand what those numbers are, let's look at those last two. So your cap space up in the top right there is 16.8. How that is determined is a few different numbers. To get this number, you need to take your 2023 salaries plus your 2023 cap penalty. Now, the rookie reserve is another distinction for your cap penalty. That number is figured out by how many draft picks you possess and where they are in the draft. So it will change throughout the year depending on where you finish, because if you draft a guy first overall, you are going to pay him significantly more than if you draft a player at the 25th pick in the first round. And it's all broken down like that. So that number is any draft pick you have, taking the money that at this very moment you are calculated to have to pay and putting it in there, and it will hit your salary cap in 2024. It's just giving you a heads up like, hey, I know it's not affecting you right now, but we will be taking 9.09 million and adding it to your cap spent next season. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind too. That's why if you go and trade for like 5 first-round picks or something crazy like that, and all of a sudden you look at this number and it's like 30 million, that's why. First-round contracts are significantly more fruitful for players than a second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. So you have to be not only aware of what you're spending on your current players, but you also have to factor in how many draft picks am I really going to have and where am I picking in those rounds, because all of those factors can affect how much your rookie reserve is. Now, if you really want to understand exactly what each number is, once you are done with a draft and you go to the draft recap, it will tell you what every position pays out. Now, that can change from year to year depending on the salary cap, but it will give you a gauge that you can look at to understand, like, okay, if I have 2 top 5 picks, I know it's going to cost me about 10 million for the year for that player and for those 2 players. So that's gonna be 20 million right there. And you can try to manipulate things in your favor to know that, hey, I know I don't have much cap room, or I know I have a lot of cap room, but I know that a lot of it is going to be allocated to the draft once the draft is done, because I have a lot of picks. That's a whole different topic. We're not going to go over that too much in this video. This video is really about the players already on the team and what you can do to better understand it and how you can really screw it up if you don't pay attention. We're going to look at Harrison Smith's contract here, because that's one I did not mess with, just so I can explain to you every number that you're seeing on this little line here. So Harrison Smith, he's 87 overall. He has a 5-year contract and he has 3 years remaining. So that's this year and 2 more seasons after is what this number is saying. his total contract is $67.4 million, and he has a $28.9 million bonus. So this is the entire bonus that this player has allocated to their contract. So if you wanted to figure out, if you're not sure how much their salary is without going to the edit player screen, you could go to the total contract, subtract the bonus, and that's how much salary they are being paid on top of the bonus. This here is telling you how much you can save on a player by cutting them, but this is taking into account a couple of different factors, right? So this is taking into how much salary versus how much penalty there is. So if a player, like let's say just for example's purposes, 500,000 savings, that could mean that this player only is being paid 500,000, and that's how much you'll save by cutting them. But it could mean that he has a $20 million cap penalty, but he has a $20,500,000 salary. So by cutting him, you are technically saving $500,000, but you will also incur a penalty of $20 million. Now that's not exact numbers or anything. That's just an example of how that can actually look if you're not really paying attention to what the contract has. And again, I will explain all this stuff so that you know what that number means when it pops up, so you can expect what will change if you decide to move on from this player at this point in time. The penalty is what the current year of their penalty is going to be. So if I was to cut Harrison Smith, I would incur a penalty of $23.1 million. And then here is just the yearly breakdown. This is salary and bonus included as to what it costs to have this player on your contract. And you can see that obviously it changes from year to year, and it goes up as the years go on. And that's how most contracts work. All right, so now that we have gone over this page, you guys understand what these numbers mean and where they come from, and you saw what the player line is. Now we're gonna go in and even dive deeper to understand the yearly breakdown, the contracts themselves, the salary, the signing bonus, and all sorts of fun stuff. Now that we know what it looks like out here, let's go into the actual player edit screen and let's see what this contract looks like at the beginning of it all. So we're gonna go into edit player, we go to the last slide, and it's gonna show you the contract length, the year, and then the total salary and the signing bonus breakdown. So you have a 5-year contract. In his 3rd year, the total salary right here is $38.46 million, and then the signing bonus is $28.92 million. So anytime you see a cap hit on a player out here, like 2023 11.8, that is taking the amount of signing bonus, adding the salary for that year, and that is where that number comes from. And to start getting into the deeper side of things, let's go ahead and let's look at some slides here that I got. First, on contract breakdown. So we know that there's a salary and we know there's a bonus, and those two are added together to come up with the yearly salary. So the salary portion of a player's contract will be split into percentages over all years of the contract. So every time you see year-to-year breakdown, there is a specific percentage of the contract that is being applied there based off of Madden's algorithm. The signing bonus portion of the contract will be split evenly over the length of the contract up to 5 years. What that means is your signing bonuses will never be reflected past 5 years of a contract. So 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years will all have signing bonus applied. But if you have a 6 or a 7 year contract, that will not have a portion of the bonus on there, which means there will not be any dead money tied to that contract. So now that we know that the salary is not the guaranteed portion of the contract and is what you're saving when you cut a player, and we know that the bonus is where the cap penalty comes from, and then we also know that salary is spread out over the course of the entire length of the contract regardless, and that the bonus is only spread out over 5 years, I want to go into deeper detail with this. So we're going to start with the salary, and we're going to go over what the salary breakdown is for all the contracts. So now I went through and I did every single salary that I could do. Anything outside of 1 year. None of this stuff is ever going to apply to a 1 year deal, because the 1 year deals are very self-explanatory. It is exactly what you sign them to is what is owed. If there's guaranteed money, it'll be a cap at that season. It will not be a cap at the next season. If it's a salary, it's obviously not guaranteed, so it doesn't matter. So these are all contract breakdowns for 2 through 7 years. So their first is a 2-year contract, and this is straight from Madden. I didn't make these numbers up. I did testing, and this is the number percentage I came with the breakdown. So this is just the salary portion of the contract. This is not including bonus at all. Your 2-year contracts are going to be a 48.7% breakdown in this first year, and the final or second year of a 2-year contract will be 51.3% of the salary. Moving on to a 3-year, it's 31.7% in the first year, 33.3% in the second, and 35% in the third year. A 4-year contract will be 23.2% in the first, 24.3% in the second, 25.5% in the third, and 27% in the fourth and final year. A 5-year contract is going to have an 18% hit in the first year, 19% in the second, 20% in the third, 21% in the fourth, and then 22% in the fifth and final year. And then we move on to the 6-year contract. That breakdown is 14.7% in first, 15.4% in the second, 16.2% in the third, 17% in the fourth, 17.9% in the fifth year, and then in the final and 6th year it's 18.8%. And the final contract you can do is a 7-year contract, and that number breaks down like this: 12.3% in the first, 12.9% in the second, 13.5% in the third, 14.2% in the fourth, 14.9% in the fifth, 15.7% in the sixth, and then finally 16.5% in the final year. Now, these breakdowns are for the contracts that you make in the file, right? These are not ones that are pre-put in from actual NFL contracts. That is why if you go to Harrison Smith here, well, again, for example, you see that his cap hit is $11.83 million. This is not a contract that I touched. So Madden has a different program involved for the contracts that are already in place before you start playing. So any real life contracts are completely different. I do not know what the breakdown of that is, and I have no way of finding out. So this is simply for the contracts that you make. And how you know that, and this is where you'll see this sometimes if you make a change in your contracts. If you go here and let's just say you change the signing bonus from 28.92 down to 28.87, now you see his cap hit went up to 12.95. That is because when you do that on an NFL contract, it is essentially resetting the algorithm that Madden has for contracts to what you are using when you re-sign and wiping out what it had pre-programmed from the NFL contract. A really good example of this is somebody like Patrick Mahomes. Now, we know that Patrick Mahomes went ahead and he made his contract super team friendly and something that they can work with. But if you go to this here and you adjust this number, watch this. It jumped up to 44.14 because now you just made Madden reconfigure it to fit what they have for you on signing contracts to put those percentages into perspective. And then just for a quick recap now, we just looked at all the percentages for the salary. Now that is not including what the bonus is going to be included in that, because obviously you can see that there is much more than 12% being done on a contract like this, right? It's broken down with the salary plus the bonus. So that is the money. The salary is the money that you save when you cut a player, right? There's no other way around it. If the salary is much higher than the bonus is on that given year, that is where the big savings amounts come from, because you've already paid out so much of the bonus that it's really just the salary that's left, which is not guaranteed. And that is how you can save money, by cutting the player or trading them away. Now that we have the salary portion of the contracts figured out, now it's time for us to move on to the bonuses and how those factor into your yearly payouts for your players. And we're going to start things off with our bonus breakdown here. And the first thing here is the signing bonus is evenly split per year depending on the length of the contract, up to 5 years. This will not affect any contract that is 6 or 7 years in length. So if you have a contract that is 4 years long, it's going to be evenly split. So it's going to be split down 25% each individual year for the first 4 years. If it's 5 years, it'll be 20%. So 20 times 5 is 100. So 20% of each year. If you go above to 6 or 7 years, it is going to pretend in the bonus world that is a 5-year contract and break it down to 20% put onto each individual year of the contract. And then your 6th or 7th year will just have the salary that is remaining. And then in the NFL world, this is a lot of times what you see people refer to as guaranteed money. That is what the signing bonus is sort of considered in the Madden world. So no matter what you do, you are going to pay them that money, whether they're on your team or they're not on your team. And that is where a lot of people get into trouble when it comes to handling their cap situation. If you sign a player to a signing bonus of $100 million and it is a 4-year contract, it will be a $25 million per season addition to the yearly salary that they have. So every single year, it'll be $25 million of dead money that could be accrued by cutting or trading that player. So anytime that you cut a player, with a remaining bonus, that is what is going to be put towards your cap penalty, and it's every single player you do it to, and that's how it can quickly add up. Now, in terms of the cap penalty, that is calculated a little bit differently than just split out evenly over 5 years. That is split into 2 years of cap penalty hit, and how it works is the first year is the 1 year worth of a signing bonus. So again, if it's $100 million, that means 20 million is a signing bonus each season. Your first year penalty will be $20 million because that's what they were owed that season. And the second year is the remainder of that money. So if you cut a player, for some crazy reason, you decide to sign a player to a $100 million bonus or signing bonus, and then you cut them the very next week, right? They still have 100 million owed. You're going to be charged 20 million in cap penalty for that first season. Your next season will be $80 million. So it is very imperative that you understand what the bonus is on each player and how much it will affect your cap if you decide to cut them and move on. Now, obviously, nobody has a $100 million signing bonus for the most part. That's usually quarterbacks, 99 overall players, not somebody that you're just going to decide to cut. I just wanted to round it up to make it a nice even number to sort of give you the implication of how big of a damage you can do to your team by not paying attention to the bonuses. And now let's just look at some examples here so that I can make this make even more sense. So if you have a player that is on a 4-year contract with a $100 million signing bonus and you decide to cut them in year 1, your breakdown will be 25 million the first year added to the cap penalty, and then the next season is going to be $75 million. That is a huge chunk of your cap already eaten up by one player that you decided to make a move from. And now that same player is in their second year. So not their first year, their second year. You'll still pay 25 million the first year, but now since there's only 50 million left for the last 2 years, that'll be your next year's cap hit is $50 million for the penalty. So now just a quick reminder, the yearly pay breakdown is pretty simple. It is going to be the salary year percentage, which we showed way earlier, plus the 1 year of bonus that is owed, which we sort of broke down just a minute ago. And if you add those two together, that is how much will be owed to a player that season. So for instance, if you have a $20 million signing bonus hit that season and you have a $10 million salary, they are going to count 30 million against your cap room for that particular season. Obviously, when you're looking at this stuff, you're never going to see nice round numbers for the most part. I mean, you could sign a player to very round numbers and have that there, but a lot of the times it's going to be random numbers like 4.87 and 5.13. You know, it's going to be very random numbers. But with the tools that I provided you in this video, you will be able to, if you really want to go through it all, break down the exact percentage of salary and the bonus, depending on the length of contract and the amounts, and we'll understand what you're going to do to your team if you decide to cut a player early on in their contract and what kind of ramifications it could have for you moving into the future. And it is very easy to see how you can put yourself in a really tough spot financially in Madden if this type of situation happens, because it can be overwhelming at times. You know, if you're not 100% sure how salaries work, if you're not really in tune with what the players are asking for and you know how you can play it out and how you can better manage it, it can be overwhelming and you can easily find yourself in a hole. It's very easy to do that. That's why you don't see a lot of teams that are 90 plus overall for multiple years, right? Maybe they get there 1 season, maybe they get there for 2 seasons. But then eventually those players have to be cut or traded because there's just simply no way that the team can continue paying them. Because otherwise they're going to have to cut 4, 5, 6 other players. I mean, look at the Chargers for this season, this offseason, for instance. The Chargers have had to cut so many players. Regardless if they wanted to or not, that's not the point. The fact is they had to do that to simply get back in line with the salary cap and not screw themselves up for the next 5 years. They had to let go of huge names too. And that is also why you see a lot of teams starting to try and win a Super Bowl with a rookie contract quarterback, because the quarterbacks are just getting so gosh darn expensive these days. It is almost impossible to have a Patrick Mahomes type quarterback and also have a bunch of supporting pieces that are great individually themselves. It's just too much wear and tear on the contract, and it's just too much wear and tear on the salary cap and how much is provided to you each year. And it always is changing. Contracts go up, salary cap does too, but not always the same way. Sort of like working wages, right? The inflation is going to go up. That doesn't mean your working wage is going to go up. So keep that in mind. try your best to manage things a little bit better. I hope that what I've said in this video is helpful. If you guys have any questions or things that maybe I didn't cover very well, or an additional question about something, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always checking comments, and if I know the answer to a question, I will very simply just respond to your comments, and I will tell you as soon as I can. I'm not one of those guys that's just not going to respond and leave you guys wondering. I do my best to try and help you guys out every step of the way in any way that I can. So again, if you have questions, put them down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Did it help you? And also, just for those of you who, a few of you have said, please help me. I'm in year 4 and I'm negative 80 million. I guarantee you it is probably due to the cap penalty. And if it's not, it's because you overpaid players. And I'll tell you a very quick way to fix that. But it's sort of a cheat, okay? If you get into a bind in your franchise, you can simply go over here, go to user teams. It's gonna bring you to this here. Now I have multiple positions on here because I had to do I did so many different contracts on different teams. But anyway, if you go to here, user teams, it'll be members if it's an online league. You can go right over and hover over, let's say, well, the Vikings. Click here. I can clear cap penalties. Confirm. And now I have 0 cap penalties. A lot of the times that'll fix the contract issues that you made. And I personally do not like doing that because I just sort of feel like it's a cop-out, and I have a hole to dig myself out of. It adds to my, you know, to how I'm going to handle my franchise and adds some twists to it. But if you're really in that bad of a situation and you don't want to lose the team you have, and you're just like, I really just want to keep playing this way, go ahead and hit that cap penalty 0. Just clear it out, man. It's there to use for a reason. Also, you can change the contracts if need be. You can go in and edit them under the edit player screen and drop them down if you want to. If you want to mimic a player taking a team friendly deal, you can do those things. It's very simple to do that. Just go right over here, go to your roster. All you have to do is go to the player card, go to edit player. And then if you go right back to where I showed you guys the breakdown before, you can just change it. Like, you know what? Daniel Hunter decided he doesn't want much money anymore because he wants to help the team. So I'm just going to drop this all the way down to a number that's better suited for my current needs. Boom. Look at that. Now I dropped his cap hit by 9 million and I saved myself a bunch of money. So there are workarounds if you don't want to take the serious approach to it. You can easily fix your cap with those 2 simple things. But if you don't want to do that, this is what this guide is for, and I hope that it helps you guys. So if you have questions about things, let me know down below. I hope this has helped you guys out. And this is not the last video. I do have other videos planned that I'm still working on. It takes a lot of studying to sort of get these done. So I'm trying to do them as fast as possible to help you guys out in as quick amount of time as I can. So make sure you go and check out the other videos. I did one on depth charts. I did one on scouting. I have one in the works for formation subs, for upgrading players. Playbooks, I think I'm going to do one on. That might be roped into the formation subs. I'm not sure yet. But I do have other plans to just sort of bring everybody back to the basics and show you guys things that maybe you don't know and that everybody assumes you do know, so you can't find it anywhere else. You can find it right here on CB Gaming. Thank you guys so much for watching. Before you leave, if you could hit that like button, it'd be appreciated. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that bell notification so you know when these next videos go up. And I will see you guys next time.